Now gauges are simpler because let's say you're measuring something like CPU usage or memory usage, you get a snapshot in a certain in a given period in time. So let's look into gauges. Gauges are simpler, and so we'll use gauges first and then we'll move on to counters. So let's look into this gauge, app CPU usage percentage. So let's look into, so we're going to look into the most fundamental data types in Prometheus, gauges and counters. Both are essentially stored the same way in the time series database, but the way you use them are different. Gauges are more simpler than counters. Basically, gauges are values in a point in time, while counters are continuously incrementing. So let's say you want to get a snapshot of the data that you're measuring, for instance, CPU usage or memory usage. They have a certain value in a point in time. Gauges are perfect. But let's say if you're measuring something that's incrementing, for instance, number of requests on a web server. You can measure the number of requests in like 1 minute duration. You can do that in 10-minute duration. You can also do it in 30-second duration. That's where counter comes in, because the value is continuously increasing. Now gauges are simpler, so we'll cover gauges first and then we'll cover counters. So I have a gauge that I'm capturing, which is app CPU usage percentage. And if I run this, we'll see the latest value for these are 5%, 33%, 11%, and we are also capturing over a period of time. And basically this is simulated data, that's why it's coming up and down. Let's filter it by a single instance equal to app1, and this is the CPU usage for app1. Now we could do some math on top of it, but it is fairly self-explanatory what it is. For a single instance, this is the CPU usage. At one point it is 74%, some other point it is 42%. So very simple. You're looking at the exact value of CPU at a given point in time. There's some basic math that you could do. So there are 3 web servers running. These are 3 different CPU usages for these 3 different web servers. What we could do here is we could call average on them. When you do average, all of them are added up and divided by the number of lines that we had, or number of series we have. We could also do some, but it wouldn't make a lot of sense unless you know how many CPUs you have running. So that's gauges, very simple. Now let's look into counters. So we have app request total, that's a counter, and you see that it is continuously incrementing. We have also looked into how to compute the increase of the counter. So increase in a 1 minute duration for this counter is basically this, and what this means is it at a given point in time, for app3 the number of requests is 172 per minute at this point. For instance, 148 is the number of requests for app2 at this particular instant, right? We can also add them up, and it makes a lot of sense since they are all the same servers, same instances of the same web server. We can sum them up, and then we have total number of requests on that web service. For instance, at this particular period of time, there are 403 requests per minute. Now there is one nuance that we should know when we are using counters. So this number is always incrementing, but what happens if a server restarts? Let's say you made a deployment, or some server crash happened, or you added more servers, right? This counter is gonna restart. So let's say I'm gonna restart app2, and if we execute this, we will see this app2, the line went down, and if we keep running this, it will come back up, right? If we give it a few seconds. So it has already come back up. We just can't see it, but we see that the value is 23. And that's the beauty of using counters. The counters are resilient to resets. So if we do this increase function again over 1 minute duration, we should be able to see that, hey, this went down, but it will come back up. And if we do sum, we can still see the total number of requests. It's not gonna panic just because a counter value has a reset. It's not gonna panic. And let's just select app2 here, right? Let's select app2 here. It's coming back up, and let's do increase on this. I have to pass in a range, and you don't see that it dropped all the way down. It has figured out that the counter was reset, and since it was reset, the increase is smart enough to skip that value, and then it can still give you the difference. So that's how counters work. They're a little bit more complex, but not really.